The worst advice ever given. You ready, folks? Do what makes you happy.
But I believe the great is still yet to come. I won't stop fighting, man, until I'm done.
Hello, and welcome to the 11th edition of The Breakfast Ball. I am your host, Bob Cardia, and to my left, your right, the dashing Richie Stoltz. So, anyway, I wanted to discuss something today. I kind of want to go into icons and favorites and all that kind of stuff. So we'll talk about that in a second. But first things first, I'm wearing my Dolly T-shirt today. I bought that. For those of you who've been watching our shorts on YouTube and TikTok, thank you. I think this one with the Dolly Parton one got like 2,500 views in the first 48 hours, which I love. But it's interesting because if you had asked me when I was 20-something years old, what I thought of Dolly Parton, I'm like, well, she's just some commercial, country music singer. And now, she is a completely underappreciated American icon. I mean, from Dolly World to all the things that she's done. I mean, even her connection, she just did a rock album, Miley Cyrus's, godmother. I think she's actually become more relevant as she's gotten older. But I read a quote the other day, which from her I love, and I used it in the short. Mm-hmm. If you want the rainbow, then you got to deal with the rain. And I thought that was beautiful. I mean, I rarely, because you and I both know I read and watch and study all the time. For me to find something like that was new. Yep. Yeah. So it's cool. Anyway, so Dolly, as I told Richie, I bought this Dolly T-shirt just for the show today. So, secondly, icons. Toby Keith. During the whole 9/11 thing, Toby Keith wrote that one song, and courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue, and a lot of people thought, hey, it was a little over the top. But I think it at that point it struck an absolute chord with America. And I used to put it on the radio, and then I started putting more Toby Keith songs on the radio, and my kids, Colton and Dylan, and even Cooper, I believe, although Cooper's probably not quite the right age to remember it. But I know when Toby Keith passed away, it kind of struck a chord with me. And then I was actually on my son's Facebook page, and I saw he posted something about Toby Keith, which, a kinship. I mean, that guy, another icon. Johnny Cash used to talk about, having your own beliefs and speaking out for what you think is right. And Toby Keith would talk about, he did a lot with the USO, a lot with troops and whatnot. And, as the tide of popular opinion turned against the war in Iraq, he said, look, he goes, I'm pro-American troops, but I'm not pro-war. And to walk that line, I think it's awesome, because I think you absolutely 100% should appreciate the men and women in service of this country. But, if you have your own beliefs on what you think the politics should be, you should be able to express that as well. Mm-hmm. So, shout out to Toby Keith and his family. God bless them. I hope life treats them well. So anyway, today's topic. I forgot. See, today's Friday, right? So we film on Fridays. So this Sunday coming up is Super Bowl Sunday. So with that said, we're going to make our predictions, and that way on Monday if we're going to be right or wrong. So I'm going to throw Richie under the bus first and ask him what his prediction for the Super Bowl this week is. So, dashing Richie Stoltz, give us your prediction for the week.
Thought long and hard about this.
Okay.
All right.
And don't upset Mary.
If you think about it, mm-hmm. It's really hard to root against Patrick. Not root against them, but to pick against them. Oh. It's really hard to pick against Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, mm-hmm. Andy Reid,
Taylor Swift.
I'll get yelled at if I root against Taylor Swift as well. So, mm-hmm. But I got to pick the 49ers. And just because I want them to win.
Wow.
Now, even though I'm a Cowboys fan, because I'm usually not
Fundamentally
the biggest fan.
flawed, folks. Anybody listening out there, dear Richie's a Cowboys fan. Okay.
I'm not a fan of the 49ers by any means, but I love the underdog story.
Yeah. Oh,
So
I do too.
it's the Brock Purdy that, I felt like all year everyone's kind of throwing him under the bus. Almost. If
Well,
you look at
I think a lot of people call him like a systems
the
quarterback.
sister,
Yeah, systems
yeah.
quarterback, and not. But I mean, and I've seen him have bad games, but I've also seen games where he's looked
really good.
really good. Yeah.
So I'd like to see him, as the last pick in the draft.
Yeah.
To come out there in his second season and win a Super Bowl. I think that'd be a
Mr.
pretty cool
Irrelevant.
story.
Yeah,
Mr.
no,
Irrelevant.
I buy that. I like that. You just took that in a different direction because when Mary watches this, Mary's our other assistant. She's a 49ers fan. Yeah, so Richie's a Cowboys fan and Mary's a 49ers fan. I don't know.
Mary, you know where you got to schedule lessons now.
Well, wait a second. Maybe I'll pick the 49ers too. With that said, my father always said you should root for your conference, your division, and whatnot. So, the inclination would be to. How about this? My inclination is for Mary and for the NFC because I'm a New York Football Giants fan because I'm from outside of New York. Just saying this. Okay. My inclination would be to root for the 49ers. But yeah, as my son Dylan always says, like. Patrick Mahomes, tough to go against Mahomes. We talk about the different quarterbacks and whatnot, and Mahomes, like when the Chiefs lost Tyreek Hill and they lost some of their other skill players, the 49ers, the Chiefs are still good. Like that speaks volumes for the type of quarterback that you have. Like whereas I'm probably gonna upset some friends with this one. The Eagles, when they lose AJ Brown, like. Clearly, we're not nearly as good. And whether it be the play calling or whatnot, I think, it speaks volumes for Mahomes. So what I'm going to say is I am rooting. My rooting interest is with Mary and the NFC for the 49ers, but I think the Chiefs are going to win.
You're just trying to suck up to the Swifties.
My daughter's a Swiftie, folks.
I know you're doing.
My daughter's a Swiftie. Yeah,
You're trying to win brownie points.
No, you know what? I don't want to be a hater. Like the woman, I mean, it's tough because I'm tired of seeing her on TV every 30 seconds. But like, she's accomplished so much. It's hard to be a hater. I mean, anybody who's reached that level of success deserves some kind of admiration for sure. So I'm not a hater. I maybe see her on TV a little bit less, but I'm not a hater. Anyway, today's topic, basically. And this is something, because I cultivate a lot of ideas from other people. I cannibalize. I pick and choose things that I like. But this next thing I'm going to talk about is something that like I've come up with myself over years of coaching. Because when I started coaching at Rutgers, they didn't really have a recruiting guideline for me. And they came to me maybe 15 years ago or so and said, we're going to make golf a full-time position. And at that point, I had to recruit, which I could tell you now, like, am I a better coach now than I was, 30 years ago? Yeah, I am. Am I, from a team that was absolutely well below average to finishing 15th in the country, am I that much better? And we won the Mark Lee, actually your last year, we won the Mark Leash Award, which is given by the GCAA and I guess the NCAA as the most improved team in the entire nation. So we came from, very, very humble beginnings to, almost meteoric, success. So am I a better coach now than I was then? Yeah, I am. But you know what? I can tell you this from doing it for a living. Personnel makes all the difference. I look way smarter when I have good players. So I developed my own recruiting format. A tour, a procedure. I had it all mounted in a binder of how I wanted to be as a coach and as a recruiter. So one of the most asked questions that I got when I sat down with people. So I give the whole tour and then I'd sit down at lunch with people and I'd say, well, do you have any questions for me? And after going through the whole format of what I do and what we're all about and what my visions are, the question I would get from parents a lot was, well, this is all well and good, but, will my son get a chance to play in your starting lineup? And I said, well, I have favorites. And typically when you say I have favorites, people just sit back in the chair like, oh, he's one of those guys, right? Well, I said, I have favorites. Yeah, well, yeah, but here's the thing, right? Yeah. I mean, and you and I have discussed this before. Oh, yeah. Do you like everybody the same, Richie?
No.
No. If you told me, Bob, I like everyone the same, you would be lying to me. Would you not agree?
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah. So I don't like everybody the same. I don't. I'm sorry. Actually, I saw this thing on 60 Minutes, God, when I was a kid, and it rocked me a little bit because I was watching it with my parents, and there was a speaker on there who said, I don't love all my kids equally. I love them adequately. And I'm thinking, boy, how crappy is that? Like, he's saying he likes, loves another kid maybe more than another kid. And then, as I grew, and I have a parent, and I have 4 kids, and watching other parents, like sometimes, like even with the best intentions, you'll always love your children. You always will. But, if one kid is, messing up and creating all kinds of heartache and strife in the family, I would say, that would probably be harder to love than it would be somebody who's going to Harvard and, succeeding in life. So you'll always love your children, but like loving them equally and adequately is different. So with that said, I tell them, I have favorites. They're unquestionably. I like, Demi more than Stevie or Bobby more than Billy, yeah. But I don't play favorites. That's not what I do. I have a very specific formula at Rutgers that I set up, and I follow it. And it has something to do with attendance, and it has something to do with participating in our fundraisers, our scoring averages, and I lay it all out there. I tell the parents, like, look, I don't even have to like your kid. I don't have to like them. If they meet all my criteria and they shoot the numbers, guess what? They're going to play. And as evidence, like, you played with my oldest son. My oldest son is a very talented player. But, when it came to the national championships in 2019, I think he was our sixth player, I think he was, and only 5 start. So he was team captain and very well-liked guy and a very good player. But the criteria that I set forward, he did not meet. So at that point, I did not play favorites, okay? But I do have favorites because I do love my son quite a bit. So I'm just saying. Anyway, the dashing Richie Stoltz. So let's think about that. Is there an area that you could think in your life? And I'll throw you a softball because I know. Like Richie and I like to goof off. We play golf on Mondays. We talk about all kinds of things. But, the original name of this podcast was going to be The Worst Advice Ever Given. What is the worst advice ever given, Richie?
What is the worst?
Do you remember this one? Yeah.
No, I don't think I do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the worst.
Oh. Keep your head down.
Oh, that's in golf.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
By the way,
I thought you were going.
No, well, that's good though. But by the way, we'll get to that in a different episode when we talk a little bit more about golf. For those you parents and friends and helpful people that are telling your friends to keep their head down, you're not helping them. Yes. Once that right shoulder comes under the chin, folks, the head goes. Yes. Yeah. Now, if you want to stress something, keep your eye on the ball is a far more correct adage than keep your head down. Just so you know. Anyway, no, I'm sorry. I kind of set you up for this because I meandered. Yeah. The worst advice ever given. You ready, folks? Do what makes you happy.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
It's one of the shorts.
It's in the shorts, right? Well, so I used to work with a woman named Joy. She was like pro shop manager at one of the courses I ran, the lesson programs. And I forget the exact particulars, but it was something like this. She listens to me meander on about excellence all the time because that's like, if you hang out with me, I try to be a ray of sunshine wherever I go. But she said, I told my kids, she heard me say it was the worst advice ever given. She said, I told my kids to do what makes you happy. Mm-hmm. And, at that point, I guess she had to be somewhere between 50 and 60. And she said both her kids were living at home. And I think one worked at a convenience store and one worked who was a member of a garage band. And then one was like, worked for a veterinary clinic as a volunteer part-time. And she was, I guess, more or less kind of supporting them, if I remember the story correctly. And she's like, I'm really seriously rethinking that advice. Do what makes you happy. Yeah, so we might have done this together. I said, make a list of the 5 things that make you happy. right?
Oh, we didn't do this, but you talked about it.
I did, yeah. So
Yeah.
so the first thing I think I put down was I like a good cigar.
Yeah.
I like a glass of Blanton's single barrel bourbon. I like red meat,
Mm-hmm.
right? I like to play golf. Right? I listed the 5 things, and then after staring at the 5 things for about 30 seconds, I realized they would all kill me within a year. Right? No, don't do what makes you happy. We're going Les Brown, folks. Right? If you want your life to be easy, you have to do what's hard. If you want your life to be hard, you have to do what's easy. So my question back to the dashing Richie Stoltz is, yes, I'm all about enjoying our time and like when we goof off and whatnot, but is there an area of your life that you prioritized, that that's your thing, that you have favorites, playing golf or hanging out with Coach Bob, lots of fun, right? Or what would be a thing that you've prioritized in your own life, or a story that you can share with us that would illustrate that.
So I'll tell you this. After work, you have a buddy say, hey, do you want to go out for a drink? Do you want to go out and grab food? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that?
We've been known to do that.
Yes, we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do I do that?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, but usually not, because I have 2 other things in mind: sleep,
Mm-hmm.
and usually right now, editing.
Editing, right?
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
This
do I-
podcast stuff, by the way, it seems all well and good, but like
not the
I'm up
easiest.
till 1:30 in the morning writing millions of shorts, and Richie's editing his butt off. So hopefully this is working, right?
Yeah. But I have to prioritize which one is going to actually move me forward.
Yeah.
Is that a night where I need sleep?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a night where I need to edit?
Right.
Or is that a night where I can go out and hang out with a buddy because maybe I got all that done? Maybe I slept well last night and all the editing is finished. So you have to prioritize that.
Yeah.
Obviously we all know which one I want to do. It's go hang out with
Well,
a
that's
buddy.
it. I watched the Kobe Bryant thing because I'm always looking for stuff to be motivating. And Kobe Bryant basically said, people used to make fun of him, like,
Yeah.
we're going out, we're going clubbing, buddy. I want to shoot more baskets, and they'd all make fun of him. And guess what? Guess where? Well, he's passed away now, but he ended up being arguably one of the top, 5'10" basketball players to ever live. He put the extra time in.
Well, I'll tell you this too. Back in high school, I used to wake up before school and go to the driving range and hit golf balls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So that was something everyone thought was always like a little quirky. I think I said in the first episode where, an old friend used to call me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
Yeah.
No one else was waking up before school
Yeah.
and going to practice.
Yeah.
I was.
We had our high school training program the other night, and I
talked about it then.
Yeah, well, I gave the impassioned speech to the kids about, if you want to be, because Richie was All-American. I said, if you want to get to where Richie is, you got to work your butt off. And Richie told that story and whatnot. And, a couple of kids, young bucks were like, let's have a contest. And so I said, okay, you can hit whatever club you want, and you get to pick whatever club Richie has to hit in a long drive contest. And so the one kid took out a driver, they took out a hybrid, and they hit it on the simulator. And they're high school freshmen. Well, they hit like 165, 170, and I was like, we're gonna make Richie hit a 9-iron. And Richie steps up and rips the 9-iron on his first one, 192 yards carry, and the kid just sat there like completely deflated. I'm like, kids, he didn't just wake up and do that. He put the time and effort in to get there, which is pretty damn impressive. You should see it, man. This kid rocks the ball. But anyway, so with that said, I'll share a story also. My father. And anybody of I guess older than 40, 45 years old can appreciate this. The after school special when you went home. I remember once I came home from school, and I was the only member of my high school team. I was captain at that point, I think, but I was the only member of my high school team that was not a member of the private country club. Mm-hmm. So my dad bought me one of those old school black shag bags. Mm-hmm. And back then it was not frowned upon to hit golf balls over the schoolyard, but apparently now they have signs up at the schoolyard you're not allowed to. But so I'm sitting on the couch watching the after school special, my Conjunction Junction and whatnot, and my dad walks in. He's like, "Son, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just taking a break." He's like, "You should really be out at the schoolyard practicing." I'm like, "Dad, I have to pick up all my own golf balls. The other kids, they have their balls picked up for them." He's like, "Well, when I was your age, son, that's what I did." And I'm like, "Dad, you mean to tell me you hit all your golf balls and you went and picked all of them up?" And he looked at me and he said, "Well, son, it's really not very difficult when they're all about 5 feet apart." Okay. Point taken. So I went out and practiced that day. And that's, a series of lifelong lessons I had from my father about prioritizing. So, the point of today, and this is all about performance psychology, is it's okay to have favorites.
Yeah.
Like what's the way back Peabody Time Machine? We're roadies for that band, actually. No, that's Mary's husband's band. So if you ever Google them and you can follow them, we try to always go out to support that band. That's a fun night.
I think it's Peabody's way back
Time Machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Gordon. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Gordon.
Yeah, but yeah, they're it's cool.
I'll shout you guys out next week with the right name.
Yes. Well, we self-corrected there, but yeah, we'll go out and we'll do that. We'll have a good time. But that's that's what we do when we get our stuff done. And prioritizing, I guess, the one thing, as we always talk about, is our goal. If you really want to move somewhere in this world, then you prioritize. Have favorites, but don't play favorites. So, what do you think, Richie? I think we covered our ground pretty good today.
Yeah. I'd like to say, if you like what we're doing, give us a like, subscribe, share, comment, tell us how we're doing. Any feedback is always great too. So,
yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Actually, really, any feedback is always great as long as it's constructive.
Right. Exactly. Right. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We're trying, folks. So what did Hammer say last week? He said we're flying the plane while building it, or something like that.
Yeah. That is the last thing you want me to do.
Yeah. Right. I mean,
build a plane while it's in the air.
No. I am a ready, fire, aim kind of guy. So I guess that works for me. But to get anywhere in the world, you got to prioritize. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I guess it's go 49ers. Although I think the Chiefs are probably going to win, but go 49ers. We will see you next week. And again, like Richie said, subscribe if you like it. And I'm Bob Cardia.
Dashing Richie Stoltz.
The dashing Richie Stoltz, right? He's going to probably break the internet. Okay. We'll see you next week, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Glass of bourbon, ha ha. My bourbon, ha ha. My bourbon, ha ha. Alcohol is no great story ever started with